The Minnesota Gun Owners Caucus and its members are once again gearing up for a fight at the legislature. Joining us this morning is the Minnesota Gun Owners Caucus Vice President Rob Doar. Thank you so much for coming in.
My pleasure. Good to be back.
For people who don't know what the Gun Caucus is you are a caucus. You have engagement with 14,000 people. You've got thousands of members. You are very influential at the Capitol. You do not want a ban on assault weapons. What do you say to those parents who are pleading for that?
You know, I think that I understand the sentiment behind that, but it falls on a couple of different levels. One is that this individual had what they would call an assault weapon, but they also had 3 other firearms as well. So if we're talking about actually preventing a shooting or an attack like this, that wouldn't have prevented this thing. Another thing is California passed an assault weapons ban in 1989. They still have more mass shootings than any other state.
Okay, well, I think people will agree that it may not have prevented this, but maybe it would have made it less devastating. The shooter got off 116 rounds in 2 minutes. That obviously suggests semi-automatic and high-velocity ammunition. That is what caused the damage to these kids. And if you hear the surgeons at these news conferences, they talk about the damage to these small bodies with the high velocity weapons. Why not some kind of restrictions on ammunition? Well,
we're interested in finding politically viable solutions, but beyond that, the fact that there may not even be the votes to get this through, the efficacy is an issue, which I mentioned before, and then there's also constitutional issues. But even if we could get a ban through and somehow all of the ones that existed disappeared, we're still not addressing the actual root causes of the attack, and that's where we're interested in finding some common ground.
And your job is to count votes. Do you think that there are enough Democratic votes and Republican votes to pass this in the legislature?
No, I expect that the House would remain pretty close along party lines, but even Senator Jen McEwen posted yesterday
the Democratic senator.
Yeah, Democrat senator, and then even chair of the Public Safety or the Judiciary Committee rather, Ron Latz is now trying to divert to a working group instead of a special session. But they have indicated that there are not the votes to pass this within their own Senate DFL caucus. And that's historically what's been the case with these bills.
It's interesting seeing that urban and rural divide, because there's a big difference in how urban people feel about this. 70% nearly support this. I want to ask you about a proposal by a number of big city mayors, including Minneapolis, St. Paul, but it also included Stillwater, Minnetonka, Bloomington, and other major suburbs. There they are. These mayors want the legislature at the special session to change the law to allow them to have their own assault weapons bans, and their own magazine clip bans. You are against that. You say it's just not going to work.
Yeah, it's unworkable. This was passed in 1985 by a Democrat, a rural Democrat, because he didn't want his constituents getting tied up with criminal charges in the cities just because they're going from northern Minnesota to southern Minnesota. And Mayor Fry indicated that if somebody was pulled over in Minneapolis and they had a prohibited firearm, that they would be criminally charged. Esme, I passed through 14 different jurisdictions to get here this morning, and depending on what the laws were in each of those, I could be criminally charged merely for passing through each of those jurisdictions. It's just not a workable solution.
Okay. In terms of the assault weapons ban, I think that there are many people who look at what you're saying and say that some of that is reasonable. It would be very hard to implement what we were just talking about. But why not just have a ban, grandfather in all those people who do have AR-15s, because there are obviously thousands and thousands of them in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Grandfather those people in, which is exactly what happened in 1994 for the federal ban. Everybody who had one was grandfathered in, and going forward, put restrictions on them.
Well, I guess, again, we just come back to that efficacy issue where California did this. Since 1989, you can't get assault weapons in California, yet they still have more mass shootings than any other state. They blame nearby states as the reason for that. The data's a little bit sketchy on that.
But fuzzy.
Yeah. But the fact remains that when you ban something, the government doesn't ever do a really good job of banning anything, whether we're talking about drugs or sports betting or alcohol. There just creates a lucrative black market.
There does seem to be a mass, though. People are pretty passionate about this. I think they are going to bring it and want to vote on it.
Yeah, and we're happy to have those conversations, but what I hope is that it doesn't turn into a political football for an election year.
Well, of course it's a political football.
Of course. But
is.
there are good ideas from both sides on the table that can have tangible impacts on mass shooting that are not getting any headlines, and I'd love to see some focus on those.
All right. Rob Doar, thank you so much for coming in.